Another story that I am really not proud of. Yippee! This is going to be a good one. Probably year 8, maybe year 9. So what's that? 14 years old, 15 years old. Again, I was a little shit back then. I wasn't just a little menace. Like, I feel like I made people in my close circle happy and I made them laugh and we had a lot of good memories. But in hindsight, I really liked testing the waters and pushing the boundaries, whether that was at school or whether that was in my personal time outside of school, running amok in the streets with friends. We weren't out there robbing people or stealing cars and shit like that, but we liked to play pranks on people. And yeah, this particular story is one that I've probably told 2 or 3 times in the last 15 years since it happened. So here we go. Let's chuck it up online. Yeah, so back in year 8, used to ride my bike a fair bit to school, and we'd go and build push bike jumps near my house. Our whole group had pushies, and we'd go up into this nature strip that was on the convergence of 3 different suburbs. I'm not going to give heaps of details about exactly where it was, but thousands and thousands of people would drive past this nature strip every day and no one would ever go in there. It was just hidden in plain sight. It was about 50 meters wide of palm trees. Sorry, not palm trees, pine trees. And these pine trees ran for about 250 meters long. And so there was this patch of pine trees in the middle of these suburbs and no one went in there. And we're like, that is such a perfect spot to build some push bike jumps and some cubby houses and just a hangout spot. It's on the way home from school. Let's have fun with it. And that's what we did. After school, we'd go in there, build jumps and hang out, you know? It was a lot of fun. Kept us active, kept us for a lot of the time from doing other more stupid shit like getting involved in drugs and stealing stuff. We were just in there hanging out. And back then, it was really easy to buy fireworks. Where my house was, there was actually a place like 100 meters away. When the Queen's birthday would roll around, they would sell fireworks. So we'd go down there, buy heaps of fireworks, and yeah, have a bit of fun with them, if you know what I'm saying. And originally it just started off like setting them up and shooting them up in the sky. And then that got a little bit boring. So then we'd hold on to them and we'd go out on the oval and we'd run around shooting each other with fireworks with like a bit of PPE on and, you know, like not crazy fireworks, enough to scare the shit out of one another, but not to do like 2nd or 3rd degree burn damage or anything like that. But yeah, got a bit experimental with fireworks. One of the worst things we did do with the fireworks one time, there was this family nearby and we had beef with them for some reason or another. My parents didn't know about it, but I think we had a bit of an issue with some of their kids. And we're out in this oval area near our place and people are shooting fireworks up and it's all good. And, you know, got a bit bored of it and I thought it'd be a great idea to pretend to tip over the fireworks and aim it over in that family's direction. And that's what happened. And then before you know it, the fireworks are shooting over in their direction. It was never going to hurt them, but it was enough to scare the fuck out of them, and I just played it off like it was an accident. That's not the story that I'm telling, but I'm painting a picture. It was a bit of a shit. Didn't like physically hurting people, but I liked to fuck with people a bit back then. And so yeah, we're in at our push bike jumps, building them. We took some of these fireworks in there, and we happened to have a world globe at the time. We thought it would be a great idea to put fireworks inside the world globe and then blow it up, you know? High school boys, idiots, that's what we did. Blew this thing up. It was grand, it was amazing, but all these little spot fires started around us and we were in, you know, a pretty wood dense area and we stomp them all out and we're like, whew, that was a bit stupid. And, you know, thought we got them all out, did a good job, rode our bikes for a bit longer, and then we ended up going up to the skate park for like half an hour, doubled back to my place, and a bunch of us were just kicking back at my place. A couple of hours later, come out of the shed at my place and I look over the fence, and from my back fence you could see a bit of the bushland where our jumps were. It was only like a couple of k's away, and I just see this massive cloud of grey smoke coming from it, and I'm like, wait, what? No, surely not. We had binoculars I round the rest of the crew up, get up on the fence and on the roof, and we're looking through the binoculars, and you can see half a dozen fire brigade fireys, whatever you want to call them, in there running around putting out this fucking bushfire. Like, there's no other way around it. Like, it was a proper bushfire. Like, it was lucky that that strip of pine trees was really contained. Like, there was a road on one side and there wasn't a whole lot of flammable stuff on the other side. But the stretch of area that would have been up in flames was like 50 meters wide by like a good 50 to 100 meters long. Like, it was a proper bushfire. And us 14-year-old boys are like, oh my God, like, this is Armageddon. We've just ruined the entire world. Like, what the fuck is going on right now? Mind you, Mum was up at the shops, and the only way that she could come home from the shops was past our pushy jumps. And she was one of the few people that knew that we were the only ones that would hang out in there. So I'm thinking, okay, we're fucked. We have a quick toolbox talk, and I'm like, we've got to tell her. Like, we've got to call her and let her know what the go is. So I call her up and spill the beans, and like crying over the phone, like absolutely distraught. Mind you, the fireys are putting it out and it's starting to become under control. We're all wigging out, expecting Mum to get home and just rip our heads off. And she got back and was sitting down, and like there was like 3 or 4 of my mates there, and we're in tears. Like, we're just like, think we've done the worst thing ever. And she comes in and we're getting ready for the wrath. Not that she ever really bought the wrath, but we were expecting, okay, this is the time where we've taken it way too far and she's going to rip our heads off. And what she did then shocked me to this day. It was like, she saw how much we were beating ourselves up already, and she really let us sit with it. She didn't come in and like make us feel twice as bad as we already did. She kept it really concise, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but I remember thinking about that from then on, and the way she went about it was masterful. Like, it was kind of like she knew that we had beat ourselves up enough already, and it's not like she just let us get off scot-free. Like, she really, like, you know, wound back the freedom a little bit after that time, and, you know, we were punished and whatnot, but she kept it short and sweet. And I don't know how to put it. Thinking about it now, the card that was played was that subtle reserve one, and it was the, like, you know what you've done, and I'm really disappointed. And I don't know about you guys, but back in high school and primary school, if I was ever getting in trouble by someone that I really cared about and they're just like getting up me, it's like, yeah, that sucked. But the disappointed card worked a charm on me every time. Like, that was when it really, really sunk in that what I'd done was just terrible. So yeah, how do you play that as a parent? Get home, your eldest boy has started a bushfire, and fire out, like, she could have gone and like told all of my friends' parents, but she didn't. And she punished us then and there in a way that I think had a much longer lasting effect on us than it would have if she'd gone and taken us to the police or told all of our parents. There was something about it that left us young boys just like changed forever. And you can judge the treatment and the way she handled that however you like, but something turned for us boys that day. A real flick of a switch. So yeah, fire safety, it's such a big one. People still drive around these days having cigarettes and throw them out the window like it's nothing, and you just never know how they can start. 2019 bushfires in Australia, one of the most devastating periods of bushfires in our country's history. And we know we're prone to it. We've got one of the most flammable countries on earth, and yet people don't have a basic understanding of fire safety. How hypocritical is this of me? I've just told you this bushfire story, and now I'm going to go on and tell you to pull your fucking fire act together. Since then, done a lot of guiding, been surrounded by a lot of people that take this shit seriously, gone to a bunch of different fire forums, and I like to think that I have a better grasp on what is and isn't a good way of having fires. And in essence, if you're unsure if you should have a fire or not, it's probably a good idea not to have one. Using existing fireplaces out in the bush, that's another awesome way of minimizing the damage done to the local landscape. Even the fuel that you use for it. Do you go and snap off half-dead trees, or do you collect wood from somewhere else that's dead and bring it into the place? Like, there's a bunch of different ways that we can minimize our impact on the landscape when it comes to fires. Like, you don't necessarily need to have a massive bonfire on a nice green patch of grass and get your fucking jerry can full of fuel and do a big long strip of fuel and then start it with a fire and drink your Bundy rum while the whole thing explodes and stuff. Like, is that shit necessary? And a lot of people probably have had friends and family members that have burnt themselves over the years from doing something stupid like that. And maybe until that happens to you, you won't truly understand how quickly your life can change from a burn. Like, I've been drunk before and wobbling around and stood on a fire barefoot. That's not a lot worse than that. Like, it's something that we take for granted, sitting around a fire, appreciating the bush telly, but it's one of the highest causes of injuries in the outdoors. I remember hearing a few years ago when I was guiding that the most injuries in outdoor education happen around the campsite, and that's from like burns and spills, cuts, like things in that enclosed area, because that's where we spend most of our time. Even just the way that you set up your jet boil and boil your water. Do you sit it on top of a table where it has the potential to get knocked over and spill on someone, or do you just put it down on the ground out of the way? It's all common sense, and I don't want to ramble on about it too long, but part of the reason why I've talked about this story, put myself out there, is because Australia can't take constant fires like it has been the wildlife. It's hard to run away from a fire that's moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour if you're a fucking koala or if you're a reptile. There's no escaping it. And it's one of those ones where you might be thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm clearly not an arson. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But as my story has just told, sometimes these things can happen unintentionally. And often that's how bushfires are started. Like I said, people throwing cigarettes out, not putting out your fire properly. That's another really big one I'm glad I didn't forget. The flame can be out, but there can still be so much heat in the coals. And so getting water and pouring it all over the fireplace thoroughly and just drowning the chance out of that ever taking light again is super important. I think that'll probably do for, what are we up to? A, B, C, D. I almost forgot to come up with a name for this episode. And just a refresher, as each episode goes on, the title of the episode needs to correlate with the letter. So I'm on episode number 5, which is E. This episode is going to be called Existential. Fires that we face as a country are an existential threat, not only for us, but for the wildlife. And it's one of those ones that a lot of us will think, okay, well, I'm not an arson. This doesn't really apply to me. Even the way we vote for government can impact this stuff. Like, it's clear that our governments in the past aren't doing a whole lot to prevent bushfires, you know? So the way in which we vote for a government can have a lot to do with the way we look after land, the way backburning procedures are implemented, all of that. So, yeah, existential threat.